So, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us from wherever you are in different parts of the world. My name is Sanat Rao. I'm the Chief Business Officer and Global Head of Infosys Finacle, and it's my privilege to be your host for the next 30 minutes, what promises to be 30 very exciting minutes. Uh, as we all know, corporate and transaction banking has been witnessing a lot of change, and that part of the business seems to have taken its cue from the now ubiquitous digital transformation that's been underway on the consumer banking side for several years. A set of customers who want nothing but the very best, stringent competition from new age agile players, the need for constant innovation, all underpinned by an operating model driven by ruthless efficiency. It's on this basis that banks are going to fight and compete for a share of their customers' business. Digital transformation started well before 2009. And I dare, in the funny year that 2020 has been, the pace of acceleration towards transformation is only going to increase. It's my privilege today to host Hari Moorthy, the Global Head of Transaction Banking at Goldman Sachs. As we know, Goldman is one of the most reputed brands in the business. And about 2 years ago, they embarked on a foray into transaction banking, built on a cloud-native contemporary technology platform, all with the desire to spend and sell the best customer experience. Hari has been involved in this from the very beginning. In the next 30 minutes, I hope to talk to him about his experience of setting up this business, the role of technology and customer centricity in the modern era, but most importantly, his vision for this business going forward. At Finacle, it's been our privilege to have been one of the technology partners for Hari and his team in the last 2 years. Hari is joining us from New York, and I'm in London. Hi, Hari, and thank you for joining us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure, Sanat. Thanks for hosting. And good morning and good afternoon, good evening for all those who are watching us.
So, Hari, there's obviously a lot to cover in 30 minutes. And I guess the best starting point is a question that I'm sure is in the minds of many of our attendees today. Goldman is obviously one of the most well-known brands on the investment banking side. So what made the firm really take the steps towards transaction banking? And why did the firm decide that this was an area where they could actually compete and make a difference?
So that's a great question. I get asked that question a lot. The answer is very simple. Serving our clients is our number one priority. And if you looked at the history of Goldman Sachs over the course of 150 years, we have built many businesses. We have served clients consistently with a high degree of confidence, with innovation, and at the same time managing risk appropriately. So as we sort of started looking at this industry, especially the corporate treasury and the institutional treasury market, both domestic in the US as well as globally, there were a few key themes emerged very early on. And in order to pursue this further, we've spoken to roughly about 200 odd treasury teams across the board, even before we embarked on this journey. And one of the things that we found through those interviews and interactions was there were three consistent themes that emerged. And they were A, it takes too long to open an account or too difficult to engage in entity or account onboarding and maintenance. Two, there is a lack of digital interaction. The consumer revolution you referred, Sanat, in your introduction, has not happened in the corporate treasury world, or it's in nascent stages in many places when it's happened. Three, there is lack of data and lack of insightful analytics being presented back to the treasurers and to the treasury teams. And if you think about those three themes, they were perfect for a new entrant like Goldman Sachs because they could all be solved using digital means. Without having huge teams being spread across the globe, we could scale the business purely by investing in better technology and high degrees of automation and using modern technologies. And the timing was great for us because I almost felt if we had started this just about 5 years earlier or 7 years earlier, we wouldn't have the privilege of working with some other technology tool sets and the maturity that we have witnessed in cloud, in artificial intelligence, and big data stores, and ease of use of many of these technologies, and more importantly, the security protocols. So the why is very simple to serve clients. The how was probably more difficult. And what was fairly straightforward in that the clients wanted us to do it in many ways because there is sort of a need for that sort of a digital transformation to occur. And I'm actually almost sure over the next 10-year period that will only accelerate.
Sure. And I think there's a lot more that will happen in the space. And like you rightly said, technology is going to be at the forefront of that. But just if you take a step back, Goldman is still a relatively late entrant into a space that many other banks had already been competing in. For a firm that had decided to leverage technology and given the fantastic brand that you had behind you, where exactly did you think that in this crowded place you could create a niche for yourself?
I think our insight was if we had a highly differentiated product, and if we had a product that will actually solve very specific problems that many of the treasury teams had encountered or encountering, we would actually have a massively important role to play. And hopefully we would gain a piece of our market share from the large pool of incumbents as well as a huge market that exists. We are very humble. We didn't set out to sort of, be one of the biggest providers. However, we knew our place is going to be when there is a digital need and a problem that is otherwise very difficult, operationally intensive, or manual in nature could be automated away. And where we could consistently use cloud, APIs, and digital storefronts to innovate and provide very targeted solutions would be our best targeted places to sort of evolve. So in that spirit, we picked cash management and global payments and the sort of the surrounding systems that kind of work towards that were our core sort of targets. We began a journey in the US. And we would like to sort of launch into UK and Europe as the years go by in the next 12 to 18 months. But what I tell you, Sanat, one of the foundational things that we found is the Starbucks example, right? Starbucks doesn't merely sell coffee, they sell the experience of drinking coffee, and they sell the experience. So one of the things that we very much focused on is the human-centered design and what do treasurers and treasury teams want from their banking systems. And we provide it in the seamless fashion, in the most unobtrusive fashion for them to use. And the linchpin on all of that is providing key APIs to connect systems to systems. So if we can avoid treasury teams using our portal, we have been successful because that's 2 clicks away for them to do something that they should be doing. So our focus in obsessive digitization is one of the differentiating factors and the pace at which we could deliver this, right? As you said, we started this journey in 2018, November. We had a fully developed product that we launched in June of 2020. So that is a space of roughly about 18 months where we set up a team, hired a team, delivered an end-to-end product in the US. So I think that's sort of what differentiates us. And that goes back to having the modern tool set to use.
Sure. I guess given the environment that we are all living in, technology has become pervasive, not just in every business, but indeed in our day-to-day regular lives. And in the last several decades, the biggest areas of disruption, not just in banking, but indeed in other industries, have been those businesses that have been able to effectively leverage the intersection of business and technology. Now, like you mentioned earlier, for you as a business, a young business, you've leveraged technology from the very beginning. What opportunities did you see, and how did you see this intersection of technology and business in your context?
Well, that's a fantastic question. If you looked at the last, say, 20 years, and if you see the biggest innovations that have happened in every major industry, whether it's media, whether it's telecom, whether it's pharmaceutical or finance itself, there are two constant things that have been true. One, the pace of technology and the application of technology was the biggest differentiator in that innovation. Two, it's not often solving a new problem. It is often applying a new solution to an existing problem. That sort of created that innovation and the acceleration of that innovation. So one of the things that we had strong conviction earlier on is the idea that if we could actually use the technology and we could be sort of the new sort of a small player, but yet be very disruptive in a large market, we would get the penetration that we would perhaps seek. And the divisional alignment as well as the sort of the build versus buy strategy all worked in our favor, because we were very clear that anything that is commoditized, anything that is off the shelf, we would likely sort of go and use as long as it fits into our technological parameters. And when we build something, build without any technology debt. Use high standards in testing, in development life cycles, and make sure that we treat data and API as the core pieces of the building blocks that we have done. So as long as we sort of remain true to the tenets of what we laid out earlier on, I feel like our pace of delivery will continue to accelerate. And furthermore, technology itself will be a great differentiator in the long term in sort of making this a more sort of a recurring, high trustworthy system, both from a security and reliability perspective.
Sure. And I think this is commonly said nowadays, particularly for those organizations that leverage technology very extensively. Technology effectively has become the business, right? Earlier used to say it's a banking business that leverages technology. I think in today's environment, the ones who differentiate themselves are the ones who recognize that technology is the business, right? And I think it's being reflected not just in the approach that banks take towards technology, but it also talks about the composition of their teams, the percentage of people who have a technology background, and indeed the vision across the enterprise rather than just at a project level. I just want to go back to something that you referred to a short while ago, which is the human-centered design approach. Now, a lot of viewers probably don't know how that was used in your context. I mean, people are probably familiar with that, the idea of a human-centered design, but specifically in the context of your 2-year journey, can you just explain how how it manifested itself?
Absolutely. So the human-centered design concept itself is a decade old, or perhaps even more than a decade old, applied both in the management side as well as in the sort of the digital journey side. But the key tenets of that is you don't develop a system for a corporate. You don't develop a system for a role. You develop your system and interactions to a person. And that requires a lot of thought and a lot of groundwork and lots of interviews and sort of investment upfront in designing and thinking about our digital solutions. And it also requires a sense of discipline. It's very easy to organize your work based on your organization structure, mirroring into a client portal, right? And the way that products are aligned, or way that the sort of go-to-market strategy works. Human-centered design pivots everything upside down. Everything is pivoted to a user or a person, and all that person requires is available in one unified way so that the experience is tailored for that particular use case and that particular person. So, as I said, we had not only interviewed 200 odd treasurers, but we have spent several hours, several days, putting our digital design in front of many of the actual practitioners and users. We have created journeys that will actually tell us exactly what they are worried about every day morning and what is it that they need when they log in and how can they get answers that they seek in the fewest amount of clicks possible so that they are not sort of looking for information, but rather acting that they should be actually acting on any given second. And so that's the goal of our human-centered design. And we had a dedicated team and a huge investment earlier on, and it still continues in building that sort of thought process and philosophy. The simplest possible thing is listen to clients. And they tell you exactly what they want. It's our ability to synthesize and put something in front of them. So we have that design through interaction that sort of differentiates. And we have relied excessively in our build out of this platform.
Talk a lot about technology and technology related practices, but I guess something that is not given as much attention as it deserves is the people in the team, and the fight for talent is second to none when it comes to the focus that organizations put in genuine enterprise transformation. We've talked leverage technology, but let's just change tack and talk to us about the kind of team that you had with you and how that team helped you achieve what you have done in the last 2 years.
It's a phenomenal team. We have gone from a team of one to roughly a team of 400 odd in a space of about 19 months or 20 months. And we have had folks from all walks of enterprise experience, educational background, multiple countries, multiple gender, and fairly a diverse group of folks coming on board to create this with very different experience. We have had folks who have had experience in this transaction banking industry for the last 20 years. And we also had folks with deep engineering and cloud expertise and deep operations expertise, credit expertise, and compliance expertise. And so the idea is to sort of bring that 360-degree team in a simple concept, which is there's one problem to solve. All this talent comes together to solve that one problem. And the beauty of this is, having that one team mindset and a very high degree of innovation, but with a very disciplined execution. And I just cannot thank the team that pulled this off in such a short period of time. So thanks for giving me an opportunity to thank them publicly again. And a big shout out to them for all they've done in the last 24 months.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. And I think it's very apparent that organizations that have done transformation successfully have been able to find the right intersection between bringing the right kind of talent and taking the right perspective as far as technology is concerned. So I think I'm not surprised at all at the success that you've had, given your focus on both of these areas. Given that 2020 has probably been the most defining year for most of us in our lives, I think no discussion would be complete without some reference to COVID-19. This is, I think, the first ever virtual SIBOS. Your own transaction banking journey has been underpinned with technology. And the fact that your business was born in the cloud, you were able to leverage technology from day one. There was no technology debt to speak of. All of this obviously put you in a very advantageous position. But there is a point of view that COVID presents challenges, and I dare the kind of challenges that probably many of us had not foreseen in advance. From the vantage point that you occupy, Hari, in a successful business and a growing business, do you see COVID-19 as presenting some new challenges for your business? Or is it really a question of actually leveraging even more opportunities as a result of COVID-19?
Well, 2020 is not yet over. So we have a few months. If there's one thing true about 2020, it is we just get yet another surprise. So we have another 3 months to go there. But look, when the first wave of COVID began, we were in the final leg of launching publicly in June. And so pretty much the last 3 months of the work that we had done to launch this business was done in the lockdown across the globe. And I would say it presented good sort of opportunities and also posed a lot of challenges for us. As simple things as, look, if you were to work in an office environment, you get to see folks. You just need, you can ideate in a water cooler area. You could just have a coffee and sort of solve problems. So, and we lost sort of the opportunity to have informal discussions and collaborations. But what ended up sort of becoming the other side of it is that we ended up being a lot more disciplined in how we approached problems, how we approach solutions. So on the one hand, what could have been very difficult ended up sort of being somewhat of a benefit in that our productivity increased by 20 to 30% since COVID has begun, purely because people have that much more time to sort of work. And there is sort of limited interactions outside, limited distractions in kind of getting to work and coming back from work. So that said, I do worry about the sort of the next few months and few quarters of this sort of semi-lockdown or lockdown or however you want to face it. Obviously, first, the number of health issues sort of prompted, and the wellness and sort of well-being of the folks who are working here or anywhere else. Two, the amount of sort of the pace at which we're innovating. I do worry about sort of the collaborative aspects of teams and not being together, but it's what it is. And I actually think the upside on that for us had been that when we began the work at the beginning of COVID, we were sort of almost driven to onboard more clients because we were at right time, right place to get clients onboarded in a very quick manner. And if you imagine there are $2 trillion of cash flowing into US corporates that needed to be placed in multiple bank accounts. So, in what could have been a challenging time, big thanks to our team as well as our broader Goldman Sachs cohorts that we turned into somewhat of a positive for us to shine. But that said, look, I'm sort of worried about sort of where this would lead us in terms of the global nature of it, as well as sort of the curve that's coming down and what that means in a macro context for economic, as well as other types of recoveries that are needed across communities.
Oh, sure. I think it's it's only fair to say that organizations recognize there are opportunities coming out of COVID, but at the same time, you take a realistic perspective. This is something that presents challenges which we've not encountered in the past, and therefore you take a realistic view of the journey down the line. So I still have a couple of other questions, but I think it's only fair.
Sure.
I see a lot of questions coming in from some of our viewers. Let me just pull up a couple of them. So this one is Armin, and she asks, great model, congratulations, Hari. In addition to APIs, do you plan other channels for customers?
Yeah, look, I mean, we offer multiple channels. We offer files, we offer a digital footprint in terms of a browser-based solution. We offer Swift, now that we're in SIBOS across the board, as well as many other point-to-point integrations. We have already announced very specific partnerships with a number of Treasury workstation solutions, as well as ERP systems. Our goal is we want to sort of move to the world of APIs and standardized connectivity, so it reduces the friction point that exists in the broader industry and landscape. That said, our goal is to meet clients where they are in however they would like us to integrate into their ecosystem. And our sort of benefit is that we don't need to develop multiple systems or multiple different models for those integrations. What's have been historically painful is every time such an integration happens, there is a bit of legacy or technology debt that's been sort of put in place because there were bespoke systems developed. Our view is that if we abstracted our core systems using very clear, well-documented APIs with very standard data schemas, our custom integration is just an extension of that, and we don't need to sort of bring it into core parts of our systems. Our long-term goal is to have, and it's continued to be true, in that there is one system that does one thing, and it does that really well. And that microservices model, I hope, will sustain us for the long term in sort of keeping the system clean and avoiding the technology debt and operational debt.
Sure. Just picking up another question here from Alenka. She says, how have you invested in data analytics, AI, machine learning? What are your top use cases, both customer-facing and employee-facing?
There are so many use cases. I think we probably need another session just talking about the applicability of data intelligence and sort of the artificial intelligence. We have dynamic payment routing, smart payments routing, actually analyzing the anomaly patterns, fraud detection, sanctions detection, and then maintaining our plant in sort of running our machinery. And if you're running a 99.995% system uptime, you need a lot of data sort of keeping all the machinery running. And then we actually sort of provide insights on our liquidity, our virtual accounting solutions, providing insight to our clients. So we could enumerate so many use cases where every one of what we built is underpinned by high quality of data and high degree of providing analytics and insights to use the data in a business context. I think that part is very key because that actually enables our clients to get the best out of our systems.
Sure. Well, there are many more questions coming in, but I'm not sure we actually have the time for all of that. Let me come back to a question which I think would probably, be the fitting end to what's been a very interesting discussion. So, Hari, this has been your second innings at Goldman Sachs, and you have the wonderful opportunity of building this business from scratch, from day one. Having nurtured this baby from its very inception, what exactly is the vision for this business over the next, say, 3 to 5?
Well, look, first of all, it's been a privilege to work at Goldman Sachs, and it's a privilege to be hired back twice laterally. So I thank the firm for giving me the opportunity, as well as sort of the huge runway to sort of build this. There's so much we could be doing in the next 3 years. Look, very concretely, we are looking to launch this in UK, Europe, and Asian countries in the next 12 to 18 months. And we are also adopting more technologically savvy solutions for some of the other thorny problems that are adjacent to what our core products have been. And we've been deeply thinking about how best to sort of provide a financial cloud for transaction banking services and payment services. In a way, this platform can be leveraged for use cases well beyond what we have designed. So our goal is to enable our clients to reach their clients better. So these B2B2B and B2B2C models are evolving. And we want to be sort of in the forefront of that innovation. Also, there is a fair degree of innovation that needs to happen in liquidity management and payments in general. And we are partnering with a lot of industry thought leaders in how we better think and shape the future. And look, I'd be very glad to sort of go into details as years progress by, but in a 5-year period, our objective remains that we become one of a significant players in this industry, not only in serving our clients, but also providing thought leadership and shaping the next journey, our next era of digital transformation across the board.
Sure. Time permitting, I would have loved to talk to you a little bit more about not just the B2B2B and the B2B2C models that you talked about, but indeed the fact that there is going to be a lot more innovation in this place. So maybe that's a topic for a discussion some other time. We still have some questions coming in from the audience, but unfortunately we've completely run out of time. But we'll try and get you the responses to many of these in an offline mode. I hope everyone has enjoyed the discussion. It's really been stimulating and, very, very exciting to listen to what Hari and his team at Goldman Sachs have in mind as far as transaction banking is concerned. So Hari, thank you very much for your time.
Thank you, Sanat. Thanks for hosting it. And I enjoyed this conversation. Really appreciate the opportunity.
Great, thank you. And once again, thank you to all the attendees for having joined us today. I do hope you found it as interesting as I have in hosting Hari in this discussion. Like I said, we'll get you the responses to some of these questions offline. Do please visit us at SIBOS. And also, if you'd like a copy of the Forrester Wave report for digital banking for corporate banks, do please drop us an email. Thank you very much for joining us today, and stay safe and see you soon. Thank you and bye-bye.